Hi everyone, my name is Maeve, and today I'm going to be talking about some self-pub and indie pub books that I either plan on reading or have read and just wanted to talk about because of my upcoming readathon, Self-Pub September, where I plan to read as many self-pub and indie pub books as I possibly can in the entire month of September. So first I have 5 recommendations of self-pub / indie pub books that I have already read and I do physically own. 3 of these are romance and the other 2 are not. So if you're not into romance, just know that the 9 other books that I am planning on reading in September are a variety of genres. So if you are not into romance, don't worry. There are other genres that I will be talking about in this video. The video that I have planned after this video, I will be talking about some more self-pub and indie pub books that I don't own and that I'm interested in reading / checking out. So if none of the books that I mentioned today interest you, please stick around for that next video. So to start off with the books that I have read and already own, I have IS-7. This is by Meredith Ryan Taylor, and this is a sci-fi novel. To give you all a more concise description of these books, I will just be reading the blurbs on the back of each one and then possibly going into a few small critiques afterwards. Explored and exploited, 22nd century Earth teems with drones and phones. JJ should know, having helped set up cell towers in some of the most remote corners of the globe. The solo mountain man lifestyle he longs for seems impossible to achieve until the dream job, the big one, the chance JJ has been waiting for to get away from it all, nearly 40 light years away from it all, a solo mission to TRAPPIST-1E as a colonial surveyor becomes available. After spending 40 years in stasis, JJ wakes up to find that the business-like AI he trained with for this mission has had plenty of time to develop a complete set of more colorful personalities. IS-7 is vibrant, chatty, concerned, and suffers from a self-imposed Florence Nightingale syndrome. To make things worse, he finds that the time he spent asleep was not uneventful. Meteorites, ship-eating alien life forms, and mysterious interdimensional beings turn out to be the least of his troubles. I really did enjoy this book. It is said to be the first in a series, but I have not seen anything saying that any other books have been published as of yet. I do think that this is great just as a standalone, and my only complaints with this is just that I feel like this could have done with one more edit. There are a few grammatical, spelling, and punctuation errors in this, and there was a bit of repetition in some of the verbiage, but overall I think this was an excellent book and I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it if you want a short sci-fi read. The next book on my list is actually a fantasy romance trilogy. It came in an all-in-one off of Amazon, and I believe that there are audiobooks and ebooks available if you would like to read this before purchasing. Sorry, the glare is really bad. So this is the Tome Wardens trilogy by Anna J. Stewart. Book 1, Warden of Magic. Librarian Clara McQueen comes to Scotland with her 2 sisters to reunite with the mother who abandoned them years ago. But a visit to what looks like an innocent bookstore catapults Clara into a world of magic, mystery, and adventure, and right into the arms of Bowen, an imprisoned warrior fighting an evil who will soon set its eyes on the McQueen sisters. So that is the preview for the first book in the trilogy. The other 2 books follow the other 2 sisters. This is an open door romance, but I believe there is only one intimate scene per book. So if open door is not your vibe, then you can definitely skip this one. And if open door is something that you enjoy, then go ahead and pick it up. I do think that this was a rather fun, just short series. I know that some people would call it like a popcorn read, just like a quick, fun, don't have to really think about it, fantasy adventure romance. The next book that I have talked about on my channel quite a bit, so I'm sure none of you will be surprised, but that is Emerald of the Sea by Kimberly Pearl. This is the first book in either a series or duology, I'm not quite sure, but the second book is being released on August 30th, so it is the perfect time to pick up the first book. If you love it, you can get the second one right away. This is a dual POV series. You do get a third POV in the epilogue, and I really enjoyed that little bit from the third character, but let's talk about the story itself. Backstabbing pirates, extravagant dinner parties, and falling in love with the one man who's out of reach. 17-year-old Emma doesn't know who she is or where she came from. The not exactly legal merchant ship she was raised on is the only home she's ever known, and she's had enough of the captain's lies. Her plans to break free from the three-masted prison are thrown off course by a deadly mutiny, and she finds herself on the run with a target on her back. And then the second POV is Maggie's only friend in the world is the kitchen boy who works in her manor. When Maggie's mother dies, she's left to be raised by a controlling father whose only concern is marrying her off to the highest bidder. But when Maggie returns from finishing school, she finds the kitchen boy isn't a boy anymore, and he's starting to feel much more than just a childhood best friend. When Emma's and Maggie's fates collide, the secrets from their pasts begin to unravel, but when danger finds them, will they regret pulling the thread? I think that this was a really fun and entertaining adventure. We get both the proper side of life through Maggie's point of view and the adventure of being a pirate and running away from people who are hunting her on Emma's point of view. The only thing that I would say about this book is that there are letters that are written in the story, and the printing of those letters did come out a little blurry in some places, which made those letters a little bit difficult to read, which I know is definitely a formatting issue that can happen with indie and self-published books. But I still highly, highly recommend this one. This is probably my favorite self-pub / indie pub book that I have read so far. The next one that I'm going to talk about is a very, very close second, but I definitely think that more people should check this out. The next book on my list is Radiance by Grace Draven. She does have a lot of books that she's written, and I'm not sure if they are all indie or self-pubbed, but if you look up Grace Draven, you will find a lot of different books that she has written. She mostly writes fantasy and some fantasy romance. This is one of her fantasy romance, and the thing that I really liked about it is that we have non-human characters and human characters. So it's fantasy with actual fantastical beings. And this one reads, The Prince of No Value. Brishan, Prince of the Kai, has lived content as the non-essential spare heir to the throne secured many times over. A trade and a political alliance between the human kingdom of Gwar and the Kai kingdom of Bast Haradis requires that he marry a Gari woman to seal the treaty. Always the dutiful son, Brishan agrees to the marriage and discovers his bride is as ugly as he expected and more beautiful than he could have imagined. The noblewoman of no importance. Ildiko, niece of the Gwar king, has always known her only worth to the royal family lay in a strategic marriage. Resigned to her fate, she is horrified to learn that her intended groom isn't just a foreign aristocrat, but the younger prince of a people neither familiar nor human. Bound to her new husband, Ildiko will leave behind all she's known to embrace a man shrouded in darkness, but with a soul forged by light. Two people brought together by the trappings of duty and politics will discover they are destined for each other, even as the powers of a hostile kingdom scheme to tear them apart. I really love this book. There are so many parts that made me laugh out loud. Since they are from two different species, they find each other incredibly ugly and they talk to each other about it very openly. And they also talk about how disgusting the other group's food is. And it's just so fun. There's so much banter. You really see them develop a friendship before they develop their romance. And then there is that exciting adventure in the background of all of this. I do highly recommend this, even if you're not really a romance reader, if you enjoy fantasy, and I hope that if you pick this up, you do enjoy it. The last one on my list that I have already read is a holiday read, and so it might not fit into your September reading, but I wanted to mention it anyways because it is a self-pub indie pub book that I did enjoy enough to purchase. And that is A Holiday in Gaslight. This is a proper romance, so it is closed door, and this is by Mimi Matthews. A courtship of convenience. Sophie is quite willing to marry outside of her class to ensure the survival of her family, but the darkly handsome Mr. Edward is no run-of-the-mill London merchant. He's grim and silent, a man of little emotion or perhaps no emotion at all. After 2 months of courtship, she's ready to put an end to things. What's a girl to do except invite Mr. Sharp to the Aperchet house for Christmas and one last chance to win her over? Only this time there will be no false formality. This time they'll get to know each other for who they really are. This is just a really sweet, short holiday romance. Again, I know that we probably don't want to read a Christmas romance in September, but I did want to mention it because it is an indie and self-pub book, and that's really what I want to highlight in this readathon. The next 8 books that I have are ones that I physically own and that I will be focusing on for the month of September. If I do finish all 8 of these, I will be picking up some more books, and that is where my other video will come in with my indie and self-pub books that I am interested in checking out. For these 8, I have organized them by length so that if you are looking for some shorter books, the shorter books are on top and the later books are longer. The first one on my stack is actually a collection of poems, so it would be a really quick read if you decided to pick this up. And this is The Birds and the Beasts by Aubrey Barnum. Life isn't about relying on others to fix it for you. It's about learning how to fix yourself. It's about growing, shedding the old you, and becoming new. A cycle which is necessary yet painful, and a beautiful one at the same time. I really enjoy poetry. I don't make much time for it. And in the month of September, what I'm planning to do is read 1 poem a day before I read any of my books. And honestly, even if you're just reading a poem a day from an indie or self-pub book, I think that that is a wonderful way to participate in the readathon that I am hosting. The next book that I have is Dear Author by Laura A. Grace. I am lucky enough to call this person my friend now. We met on Instagram through talking about manga and books. And when I found out that she was writing a book talking to authors, I was really excited about it because I aspire to write my own book, whether or not I ever publish it. I have read some of this in the past, but I want to read it in its entirety this September. Think your words might not matter? Think again. Words have the power to change lives, especially when they are used to create meaningful stories. In this collection of letters, the bookish fangirl Laura A. Grace addresses topics related to every writer's journey, from character conversations to embracing one's unique writing style to celebrating a release day. There is a letter for each and every author, no matter where they are and where they may be sharing their story with others. I'm really excited to read this, and I think that it would be great for encouragement to other people who hope to write their own books in the future. The next on my list is a sci-fi. This is Kill Switch, an AI's novel by M.L. Nunnally. It's been 2 million years since the mining colony on Pluto was sealed and abandoned. Now 2 humanoid AIs return to determine the colony's suitability for human life. Much can change in 2 million years. Is it the same colony humanity left behind? And is it ready to be reclaimed? This is a short sci-fi story that follows AI, and I love sci-fi and I love AI, and that is why I picked this one up. Next, I have a fantasy. This is The Crown of Omens by E.J. Doble. When the sun bleeds and dust sets, the king will die come morning. On the churning waves of the icebreaker sea, black-masted galleons appear at the walls of Cassandre's harbor under the cover of night. The palace keep looms large against the moon. The quiet city streets lie still and peaceful. And then thunder cracks, and cannon fire sets the harbor ablaze, as the greatest nation the world has known crumbles before them in the dark, besieged by an enemy on the hunt for revenge. Taraz, the ancient foe and former colony of Provenci, has amassed power under a mysterious new leader and make plans for a coming war, a war of gods and men alike, that will tear the world apart at its seams and bring a wave of suffering to thousands. And it is a war that begins when a pale figure slips ashore that fateful night in search of a broken redemption and the famed crown of omens. For the end of the world had come, and the ruin of man will follow. This is one that I saw recommended on another YouTuber's channel. I wish I could remember who that was so that I could link them below. But this is kind of a prequel of sorts to a longer series. And I love fantasy adventures. This is a very short prequel, and I absolutely love the cover art of this. So I am really excited to read this in September. The next book on my list is a sci-fi horror, and that is The Cult of Carmine by Tyler O. Baker. Cranky old ex-cop turned private investigator Jay and his new assistant, his tech-savvy granddaughter, Michaela, arrive in the mining town of Carmine, Nevada, looking for their client's young daughter, Rose, whose mother spirited her away in a bitter custody battle. Carmine is a strange, spooky place, and its residents are extremely hostile to the PIs. Jay and Michaela soon learn that Rose and her mother might be members of an ancient, otherworldly doomsday cult. As they dig deeper, they begin to discovering horrifying secrets about the cult and about the child's disappearance. If they can survive the town's hostile residents and the cult's henchmen, they just might be able to bring Rose home, or they might find themselves destroyed in the process. This just sounded so cool, and again, I love the cover art. I'm a sucker for really cool covers. This is also another really short one, and I'm super excited to get to this. I need to stop saying I'm super excited to get to everything because I am super excited about getting to everything. So this next book is a YA romance. This is The Other Side of Together by Emily Cox and Nicole Allen. And this says, their love is impossible. Marcus is destined for big things. He's a star soccer player, straight-A student, and gorgeous beyond the hopes of most girls, especially since they're off limits. Because of his detective dad's painful past with women, Marcus made a bet with him to avoid girls until after high school. So far, so good. Mei Li's world is anything but bright. She's a pawn in a dangerous game to keep her and her family in America, but dreams of a very different life. However, dreams turn to fear when she discovers the guy she's supposed to trust with her heart is more disturbed than she could ever imagine. Even though Mei Lee and Marcus live around the corner from each other in San Francisco's Chinatown, the only thing they have in common is the trolley shop, until the day they step through the same shop door and into a new possibility. What starts as secret notes and texts quickly becomes a desperate attempt to be together, but together is impossible. Opposing futures, a tangle of dark connections, and one big secret come between them, forcing them to risk their safety for love or leave the possibility of together behind forever. I don't typically read YA romance, but I was really intrigued by the premise of this, and I think that this could be a rarity when it comes to me with liking a YA romance. The next book I have is a historical fiction. This is Expelled by Beth M. Stevenson. Alex is the last of the Wojcik line. His grandfather and others in a secret network of freedom lovers see the evil fermenting as the Nazis gain power across the border. If Poland is to survive, their children must be prepared to survive until the enemy is defeated. But the Polish resistance desperately needs courageous patriots, and Alex and his companions refuse to merely hide. An inspiring story of youthful bravado, courage, and faith triumphing over the midnight evil in the world. I actually met this author in one of my local used bookstores, and when she told me about this book, I was really excited to see what it was all about. So if you are a historical fiction reader, you might want to give this one a try. Hey everyone, Editing Maeve here. As I was going through the last video that I filmed, I realized that I lost some footage somewhere in there, and so I am here to add the last two books on my list so that this video will have every book that I meant to originally talk about and that happened to somehow disappear from me filming to me editing. So the second to last book I have on my list is Voice of War. This is by Zach Argyle, and I'm really sorry that I said Jack in my last video. It's Zach. It's Zach Argyle. How far will a man go to protect those he loves? A soon-to-be father with a dark voice in his head, a sheltered girl addicted to threadlight, a young man whose life changes after he dies. Together they will change the world, whether they intend to or not. So this is another, from what I've heard, dark fantasy. It is on the longer side, but I am really excited to read it. It might be in a series, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. This is my second to last read on my physical TBR for this readathon. And the last book on my physical TBR is Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard by Caden Love. And this reads, forced to appease to the politics of a foreign fiefdom, Fenmir must do the unthinkable, harvest organs from infants. 10 years ago, a new generation of children began to manifest abilities from the gods. Now, nearly half of the continent has chosen to graft the organs, granting the abilities into adults. These gifted children are no longer the ones with divine power. Fenmir will no longer participate. But can he repent of his sins before all mortality is lost? Meanwhile, Erhi will give all to preserve the process of harvesting, silencing those who oppose her people. Will this land of peace resort to the barbaric practice of war? In a battle of preservation and progression, there can only be one victor. This is the first book in a series. I'm really excited to read this. It's a sci-fi fantasy blend with some really dark topics, which I'm super excited for. And as I said, this is the last book on my physical TBR for the Self-Pub September readathon that I am hosting. So that is all for the books that I own physically. I will be doing some other videos about books that I'm interested in checking out that I don't own physically. And I'm kind of hoping for some suggestions from you guys with how I should break up some of these other Self-Pub and Indie Pub videos. Would you guys like videos focusing on genre? Do you guys want videos focusing on page length? Videos that are focusing on where you can read these, whether that's physical or Kindle or audio? Let me know in the comments down below. I am still very excited for this readathon, and I really appreciate all of the response that I've gotten for this. It really brings me a lot of joy that there are so many other people that are excited for this readathon. So if you have anything else to add, if there are other authors or books that are Self-Pub or Indie Pub that you want to recommend to me or anyone else who's doing this readathon, please leave them down in the comments down below. My favorite thing about YouTube is talking to you in the comments, and my second favorite thing about YouTube is watching your videos. So if you have a channel, link me, tag me, let me know in the comments down below so that I can check out your channel, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!